Hello and welcome here to Talk FCB. And I said earlier on that unfortunately, hopefully I could come back after the game and still be in good spirits. That hasn't happened. El Clasico has just finished. Real Madrid 3, Barcelona 1. So our first loss of the season, our first goals conceded of the season, and our first really bad display. I think the PSG game was a really tough one. We conceded poor goals, but you always thought, maybe that was just because it was a big test and we didn't really rise to the occasion. Well, the problem now is that it's happened again. We haven't rose to the occasion and we haven't really performed again in a big game. And I'm not sitting here really angry, and I'm not sitting here venting frustration at every single player. There's a few problems that we have that are very, very big. But once they're identified and once Luis Enrique can look at them in training tomorrow and look at them throughout the season, we'll be a better team for it. I think, first of all, give credit to Real Madrid. I think, to be fair to them today, I think they played very well. I thought Isco came in for Gareth Bale, was outstanding going forward and defensively, worked really hard. And I said when he came off the pitch, he was absolutely shattered. That's why he had to come off, because he'd really worked his socks off. He'd run himself into the ground. That's what we should have had. We should have had players who were out on their feet, and we didn't. I think Real Madrid pressed us high. They worked very hard. Their intensity was good. Every time there was a loose ball, they were first to it. The crowd were behind them. You can moan about the referee and you can moan about decisions, but let's face it, we didn't lose the game on refereeing decisions today. We lost 3-1, 3 good goals, and if Real Madrid had actually played the ball better in counter-attacking areas, we could have lost it by even more. I think 3-1 is probably quite lucky for us today. We did not play at all well. We scored actually very early. I think the early goal from Neymar probably did set us back a bit. We sort of didn't really play as well. He wasn't really keeping the intensity after we'd scored. We sat back a little further than maybe we wanted to. That was a mistake. And I think, first of all, you have to look at Luis Enrique and look at his team selection. Now, I've seen already on Twitter a lot of criticism going Luis Enrique's way. Let's take a few things into perspective here. Number one, it's his first ever El Clasico match. Last season, Carlo Ancelotti had his first Clasico in the league and he lost both of them. That's an experienced manager coming into La Liga. Luis Enrique, it's going to take time. Today he made big decisions, he made gambles, he pushed Mathieu to left back, he left out Rakitic and brought in Xavi, he played Piqué at centre back alongside Mascherano, and let's face it, they didn't really work out. Luis Enrique's gambles today didn't work. I think Piqué, looking at the game and after it, the performance, he shouldn't have even started. Mathieu should have been centre-back and Jordi Alba left-back. Xavi played okay. Rakitic didn't really do much when he came on either, so you can't really argue too much with that one. And Luis Suarez did fine, So Luis Enrique didn't get too much wrong, but the big decision he did make was to put Mathieu in, and that didn't really work out. But you cannot say from that, Luis Enrique, he doesn't know what he's doing. You have to give the guy time. If you're going to say that, you just will sack him now, because if you're not going to give any manager time, we're never going to get back to being that force. It takes time to put things together. It takes time to put a side together that's going to be competing for things. Real Madrid are a work in progress. They've built their way towards what they are today over the last 2 seasons under Ancelotti. We need to start that rebuilding process now. We've started the league very, very well. We've probably overachieved, actually. We probably have got through some games where we really haven't played well. Villarreal springs to mind. We didn't play very well against Athletic for most of the game. Against Malaga we saw it. Against PSG. We've actually probably overperformed. So we need to just sit back, take it as it comes. We're going to have some losses. We're going to have some draws. We're going to have some poor performances. But the one thing I don't want to see from players, no matter how bad the game is going, is them losing belief and also losing the desire. And that's what I saw today from Gerard Piqué. There was a moment where the ball went over the top, and he was miles in front of Karim Benzema, and still he didn't get the ball first. He was just slow getting there, he was very complacent, and Benzema just nicked it off him. And you just think, Piqué, this is a club that he came from the academy. He loves this club, but somehow he's not switched on. He didn't concentrate again today. He gave away the breaking point, which is the penalty. That was the real turning point in the game. Piqué was poor today, our worst player, and he made several mistakes throughout the game through lack of concentration. We spoke about it before the game. Could he keep his concentration? The answer was no, he could not. And it was poor from Piqué again today, and for me, that's the last straw. We've given him so many chances, so many opportunities. It's time now for Mascherano, who is brilliant, by the way. Every time the ball went near him, he won it. He covered for Piqué, I don't know how many times. I thought Dani Alves played okay today. He made some very strong tackles. He covered well down the right-hand side. And Mathieu, bring him over to centre-back and put Alba in left-back, and then you take that problem out of the equation, because Piqué was a massive problem today. The other problem is our midfield. We got absolutely overran, and I do wonder about the midfield we have. We have Sergio Busquets, who I thought played very, very well in the first half. He won the ball very, very high up the pitch. His passing was good, but the second half, it wasn't quite as intense from him. Iniesta had a poor game, wasn't involved a lot. Xavi tried to control things, but again, you don't really have the athleticism from Iniesta and Xavi. They can't really work back, they don't really track their men, and it just begs the question, how are we going to address this? Because I do wonder whether we do have to start playing maybe with Mascherano and Sergio Busquets in defensive midfield, because we don't really have the athletic centre midfield. We saw Real Madrid today, for instance, with Kroos and with Modric. They're two players who can get up and down the pitch, who can defend, who can attack, who can control games. But in Xavi and Iniesta, they're not as athletic. So if you are going to play players like that, you do need the protection behind them, because the back four today were exposed, and that's because of the lack of, the creativity, Real Madrid possessed, and they just destroyed our midfield. They overran us, and that was a real problem. In terms of going forward, we'll have no problems, absolutely no worries in that department. Messi he was quite quiet today, didn't do as much as maybe he usually does. Same goes for Neymar, he had a brilliant goal, was very, very quiet from then on. Luis Suarez, of course, you can't expect too much for him on his first Barcelona appearance since his suspension ended. So it was good, though, to see them all interchanging. They looked really good. There was chances in the first half for all of them. Suarez made some really good runs, and I promise you that front three will be unbeatable. So we have no worries in terms of attacking. It's just the midfield and the defence I worry about. I thought Claudio Bravo today was excellent. I thought every time the ball came near him, he came out and he claimed it really well. He was very, very calm between the sticks, considering it was his first Clásico. So in terms of that, I don't have any worries, but it's just the defence and midfield I do worry about. The athleticism in midfield, and also just the general solidness at the back, and whether we can sustain, the periods in the game where Real Madrid dominated and we just couldn't get out of our own half. We were pressed, we were high up the pitch, and it didn't work out for us. So there was some decisions today which Luis Enrique got wrong. There was some performances out there which weren't good enough. But all in all, Real Madrid were better than us today. We got to accept that. You can't blame the referee or anything else. We weren't good enough today. Our intensity wasn't there. The desire wasn't there from some of the players. And it was a poor performance all round. Like PSG, like Malaga, it's happening again. So Luis Enrique needs to address what's going wrong. And it's going to be very interesting how we bounce back from this. Because at the end of the day, we're still top of the league for now. Sevilla have the chance to get a bit closer and possibly go top of the league themselves. Real Madrid, of course, only a point behind us now. But a really disappointing Clásico. But what I would say, guys, you can't jump to conclusions too quick. Don't get on Luis Enrique's back. Don't get on Lionel Messi's back. Don't get on Suarez's back. Only jump on the people who weren't good enough today and didn't show enough desire. Gerard Piqué wasn't good enough, and he also looked like he didn't want to be there. That's when I worry, when you've got players there who are passengers, because in games like this, you cannot afford to carry anyone. Everyone's got to do their job, and today that didn't quite happen. So let's see how we bounce back from it. Let's try and stay positive. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think was the moments in this game where we lost it? What would you change going into the next Clásico, and how do you think we're going to bounce back from this game? So leave your thoughts down below, guys. If you are new to the channel, please subscribe, and I'll see you very soon. Very disappointing, but let's stay positive. Visca al Barça, always.
Barça! Barça!